Welcome to the Pro Church Marketing Podcast. I am Jono Long, the founder over at Faithworks Marketing, and excited because today I've got with me one of our favorite pastors over at Faithworks, Ryan Vernon from 902 Church up in Kinston, North Carolina. Pastor Ryan, thank you so much for giving us some time today. How's everything going in Kinston?
Man, rocking and rolling, as they say at Chick-fil-A. My pleasure to join you guys and hang out with you and just talk ministry, and really excited. But man, we're rocking and rolling here in the thriving metropolis of Kinston, and we're on the East Coast, about 45 minutes from the beach. And so it's still kind of cool, but ready for, hopefully things are turning the corner here and going to warm up soon and we can all head to the beach. But man, we're just, God's moving and doing great things. So we're excited.
Now, that's awesome. And we see at Faithworks, we've got a lot of great clients, but there's some who stand out and we talk about in Slack, and share sermon clips. And so not to blow smoke, but you guys are definitely one of those where we're like, hey, did you hear what Pastor Ryan was saying the other day in the sermon? We don't do that with everybody, So, be encouraged, man. Love what's going on at 902 Church. And so you guys are in a small town. Kinston's a small town, right?
Yep, we have about 55,000 people in the county. And so there's the county, it's Lenoir County, and then Kinston is kind of the hub, the main seat of Lenoir County. And there's 25,000 people in the city. But when you add in all the county around it, there's about 55,000 people total. And so we're right in the middle of Greenville, North Carolina, which is a college town where East Carolina University is. You've got Jacksonville, which is a big military base. Goldsboro, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, big military town.
Yeah.
New Bern, kind of a more beach town. We're kind of right in the middle. So we've got all these big, thriving, growing cities around us, and we're kind of right in the middle. And we're kind of the pass through.
Gotcha.
To get
on your way to somewhere else.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Pretty much. But I love it. I grew up here and couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
Well, I want to talk more about because you're a growing church in a pass-through city, like you said. So I want to hear more about that. But first, take us just quick history of you, a little bit of your background, how you ended up at 902 Church, and give us that little Reader's Digest version of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to East Carolina University in the late 90s, graduated around 2000, 2001, and with full intention of really going into the business world. And that's ultimately what I did. And then I was sitting in church in San Antonio, Texas. My wife and I had found a church there that we just loved, and it was growing. I had never experienced anything like that. I grew up in a very traditional church, stand up, sit down, hymn book, choir robes. When my dad would preach, he had a robe on. And for the first time ever, we went to a contemporary church, for lack of a better word, and they had a band, and there was a screen, and the guy was preaching and teaching in a way that for the first time in my life, and I grew up in church, I was like, man, so that's what that means. But I could walk you, if the church still existed, it doesn't exist anymore. There's another church in that place, but I could walk you to the seat. I could walk you. I know exactly what happened. It was a youth Sunday. The teenagers were leading the service that day. And I heard as clear as a bell, God say, the Holy Spirit say, that's what I want you to do. And so that launched me into pursuing ministry, and God just opened up a ton of doors. Ultimately landed in Midland, Texas as a student pastor, spent about 3 years there. Then God called me back home to Kinston, which I swore I would never move back to Kinston ever, never moving back there in a million years, and ended up moving back. My dad was a senior pastor. I was his student pastor. When he retired, and some friends and I launched out and started 902. And so we launched in 2013. And so we're coming up on our 12th birthday. And honestly, I thought we'd make it 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If we made it a month, I was going to be like, all right, revival.
Yeah.
But here we are 12 years later, and God has been nothing but faithful and just incredible. And there's, so many other things that we don't have time for that God has done that just has shown me that he's behind this, and that he's in it, and to not worry.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So obviously God's had his hand on what you're doing there, has blessed the ministry. You came from, kind of opposite of me. I was straight out of high school into ministry. That was the only job I'd ever had. But so you had some corporate experience. That you said you have a business marketing degree. So how's that like shape your ministry? Because there were times like I had wished, this is going to sound super unspiritual, but I remember there was a time where I had wished I had not gone to Bible college, that I had got like a secular degree, like marketing or something.
Yep.
That would have taught me how to run an organization when I was in ministry. I wished for that. So like, how that shape things? What are the benefits and
Yeah, so I got my BSBA in marketing from East Carolina, and there were times that I wish I had done the opposite. Now that I'm in ministry, I'm kind of the opposite of you. I was like, man, I really wish I could have gone straight. Had I known what I wanted to do, and I was going to get this call, I could have gone straight into Bible school and all that stuff. But I'm so glad, sitting in the seat I sit in now, that business degree and that corporate experience really has helped shape a lot of things, because I got experience with, you know, meeting people and building a network, and, learning how a business operates, especially the business side of church. And, I
right?
use that term loosely because, Sundays are the fun part. Sundays are when we're preaching and we're excited and we're worshiping. We've got our whole church there. It's incredible. But you've also got the Monday through Saturday stuff that nobody else sees, that
Yeah.
you also have to deal with. And we've got to think through, we've got HR things. I've got staff that I have to meet with and make sure we're reaching goals and that we're hitting the things that we want to do. And all those things I learned in the corporate world, through that business degree. I learned about accounting and management and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And so it's really, I'm thankful for that time that I spent in the corporate world, because it absolutely prepared me for ministry in a way that sometimes you don't get when you just go straight in, because you get to deal with different types of people. And I did some sales. And so I know what it's like to start at the bottom of a skyscraper in San Antonio, Texas, and work my way to the top, meeting people that I've never met before, knocking on doors and trying to sell whatever company I was working for, or whatever we were selling at the time. But it's really helped me, because I know what's on the back side of things, and I know how important it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's
that's going straight into Bible college. And then from there, straight into seminary. Like there were leadership classes, but they're just not the same.
right.
And, I never learned how to and some of it's just my brain. I don't think in terms of systems. I need somebody to help me create systems to make things work. But, when I was a youth pastor, like the system was me. Like it was just me doing everything and asking some volunteers to help me. But I think had I understood how to create systems, and I could have done so much more with volunteer teams and stuff like that, to where I didn't know how to do it. So speaking of volunteers, I'm trying to think how to ask the question. Like I see a lot of, and I did this, and I think some of this was because I didn't have any other experience other than church, but it hit me that there were a lot of people in our church sitting there with some experience at their jobs.
Yes.
They were important at work and they were in charge of a lot of stuff. And then I'm like, hey, could you pick up some Gatorades for the lock-in? I didn't know how to take this guy who was like a CEO or good at, there are people that were good at sales that I should have had in charge of like helping me do outreach that it 100%. Never did. So you get where I'm going. Like, has that helped you? Like, and what do you do to raise up leaders? Because every pastor I talk to, I say, hey, what's your biggest struggle? They always say finding leaders. So like, do you think that your background's helped you find leaders and develop leaders? And, what do you say about all that? That was a lot.
So when we first launched our church, my core team, people that we called them we were a leadership team at first. And so what I did was I knew what my giftings were. I knew that I was called to teach and preach the Bible. That's what I cared about. And that I wanted to reach people who are far from God, teach them the Bible, get them excited about Jesus. I didn't know anything about finances. I mean, other than the basics from corporate world or whatever. I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't even know anything about facility management. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. So what I did was I went and found 4 or 5 people in my church who knew those things and said, I want you to be on this core team with me as we get this thing launched and we get this thing started. I'll do the teaching and the preaching. I'll handle the spiritual side of things, but I need your help with the real estate. Where are we going to go? We're starting this church. We don't have, unless we meet on somebody's back porch, where are we going to go?
Right.
So I had a real estate agent who was like, I got you. Like, I'll handle that. That's my realm. I had a business guy who owns multiple businesses in our town and who I've known my whole life, was like, I'll help you with that as well. I know business. He knew all that stuff. I brought on a financial person who was a CPA that was in our church that was going or helping us launch. And she was like, I'll run the finances. I'll make sure that we don't spend too much here or too much there. And so we put her in charge of finances, and she started doing that. So I found 5 or 6 people and put them in their giftings. I think what happens to a lot of pastors, especially when we're looking for leaders, is we start looking for just a warm body instead of putting people where they're gifted. And what we like to say at our church is, you will never feel more spiritually alive than when you are doing what God has called you to do and gifted you to do. And so what happens is we just start, like you did as a student pastor. Hey, you're a CEO of a $1 million company or whatever. I need you to get Gatorade. Like, you've just devalued, like, not on purpose, because I mean, we still have to do that stuff.
Yeah, we needed the Gatorade, but anybody could have done that.
Right. And so, but when you start putting people where they're gifted, then that light bulb comes on for them, and they start thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I'm really good at this. And Pastor Ryan just asked me, of all the people he may or may not know, he asked me to lead that particular team. And then they're fired up. And so, and I think it's putting people on the right bus, in the right seats, and and doing what they're gifted to do. And when they do that, they realize they've got a calling on their lives from God, and that he's gifted them with things. And that has worked wonders for us. And in the beginning, you're just trying to get people anywhere you can. But what we told our people from the very beginning was, the last thing I want is for you to burn out or not enjoy what you're doing. So if you are not gifted to teach kindergartners, please don't sign up. We'll find somebody else.
Right.
I'm not gifted to work with the teenager or the kindergartners. So let's go find somebody that is, and that loves and thrives in it. Then we'll put you. And so we've given our people permission to say, this isn't for me. I don't like people. I don't want to be on the greeter team. I'm not a happy, jovial person.
And we don't want you on the greeter.
Don't want you on the greeter team then. And we're okay with that. Like, let's put you behind the scenes working pro presenter, and when they thrive and they are like, this is it, then you see people come alive spiritually. And so absolutely, that's how we built our leadership. And by putting people, getting them on the right bus, and then in the right seats on that bus. And then they grow and we grow. And I tell church all the time, you have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts you don't have. So let's do this thing together to reach people who are far from God. I'll teach and preach and study because that's what I'm called to do. I need for you to go out and invite and do the things you're called to do. So hopefully that helps, is put the people in the right place, not where you think they need to be, but where they're genuinely called to be. And the only way you're going to know that is when you actually sit down with them and talk to them and hear their story.
Okay. So yeah, a couple questions about that, because I was thinking about, as you're talking, I was thinking about how, like, in early days of youth ministry, you're just dying for volunteers. I mean, I literally, not exaggerating, it was like, are you on the sex offender registry? No.
For real.
Cool.
Yeah.
Or at least not in this state.
Exactly. Yep.
Not on the Georgia
background check, that light background check.
You pass the background check. That's all I need to know.
Yep.
And like, so yeah, we're just going for warm bodies. But follow-up question. One, what do you have in place? Like, is it on you to just identify people now, like ongoing, because as your church is growing, you need more leaders. So how are you continuing to find people to get on the bus and get them in the right seat? And then follow-up question, I think a lot of churches have a lot of right people in the wrong seats.
Yes.
But they're volunteers and we're scared to hurt feelings. And so how do you move them into the right seat because I think a lot of people are just, I don't want to offend anybody. So they're just stuck in the wrong seat, Right. So what's your system? How are you getting more leaders? And then what do you do when you find somebody who's in the wrong seat?
Yeah. So, a lot of churches do this, and you've probably heard this too, but ultimately we have what's called a start here class. And so everybody that's going to serve in any capacity, and it took us years to get here. So years to get here is that start here class. And so everybody that is like new to the church, that is, pretty much wanting to call 902 their home church, that they love it. They've been coming. They go through start here, and in start here, we give them kind of a little mini, personality test, a little mini spiritual gifts test, kind of like and we talk to them, we're asking them, what do you like to do? Where would you like to serve? Where would you I want to do kids. What are you good at? We're asking them, what do you think God is calling you to do? Well, I'm really good at handiwork. I can fix anything. And then as we are making those connections and those and networking, we're keeping those folks, we're putting a little tag on their name, so to speak, in Planning Center, like, hey, this person knows about plumbing. This person knows about leadership. This person knows about administration. So when I know I need somebody in that particular role, I can go into Planning Center and say, give me a list of people that have administration gifts. And like, boom, I forgot about Amber. Amber, I mean, this is what Amber does. And Amber loves administration. She loves getting spreadsheets together. And so then I call Amber. Amber, we're putting on an event for whatever. We're going to do an Easter egg hunt. And I need somebody to get a list of things that we're going to need for that. And boom, she runs with it. So not only is Amber now excited because, wow, God has gifted me and she's good at it, then we're growing as a church and we're moving forward as a church because it's not just me trying to do everything. And so we track that, but you got to get to know your people. And then we're always talking to people in our church, like, hey, do you know anybody I am constantly watching as well. My dad was so good at this growing up. He was like, son, you don't know this, but I was always watching. I was always watching you and always making sure, da, da, da. And I do the same thing. So Sunday mornings, I'm out there greeting and shaking hands and kissing babies and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm watching. I'm showing up at student ministry on Wednesday nights, and I'm watching who are the leaders that are standing out. Who's the leader that's actively ministering, who's the person that's standing against the wall and not actually engaging with the students. And then I can get an idea. Hey, that guy, I like him or her. Like, I can see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then we approach them and say, hey, we're doing this. Would you be interested in being a part of that? And so always watching, and we're talking to people and finding out where their giftings are. And then, as our organization has grown, we've had to do the whole removing people from a spot many times. And it's hard. It is.
Yeah, that goes over well, right?
Yeah. Very rarely does it go over well, especially with somebody that it's almost like that American Idol kind of mentality. Like they think they can sing, but they can't sing. And all they want to do is be on the worship team. And sometimes you just have to be honest, like,
let me tell you about the parking team. Come with me.
Yeah.
Put that microphone down.
Yeah. Or redirect them in that way, like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this instead? And so I think, but you're 100% right. We are so afraid of offending people and hurting people's feelings. But at the same time, there comes a point where you're actually doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
By not.
Andy Stanley talks about, like, I'm not going to sacrifice the many to not hurt the feelings of the one.
Exactly.
Which is brutal, but I get it.
Exactly. And so we've had that conversation. Sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I've never thought about that, and then other times they get upset or whatever. But we try to move them into a different place. And we just don't think this is the right spot for you. Like you don't seem happy. You don't seem like you really enjoy it. And most of the time, what I've discovered is people will go, gosh, I can't stand it. But I thought I was going to let you down. I thought I was going to let the church down. I thought I was going to let God down.
Yeah.
And that's why we really at the beginning try to say, Jono, do you really want to work with the kindergartners? And I'd like to try it, but we'll go try it. But if you don't like it, don't just disappear. Well, what happened to Jono? He's been gone for, let us know. Say, this was not my jam. And we'll find somewhere else. So it's tough, but you have to do it.
Yeah. One of the pastors I served under, he was real big on putting an end point on it. Like, we're going to fire everybody at the end of the school year, and then you've got to re-up. And so we
Yep.
kind of started doing that. And so at least they knew they had an out at some point.
Yes, and that's an excellent point, because a lot of people think that when they go to serve with the kindergartners, that's it for the next 57 years.
Yeah,
You'll be with the kindergartners.
till I die. I
Yeah,
guess this is it.
we kind of do the same thing. It's like, will you commit to serving in student ministry for 1 year?
Yeah.
And if you like it, great. If you don't, you can move on. Like, we've got folks. I had to talk to a guy the other day who was like, you know what, student ministry is just not my thing. I thought it was going to be my thing. He has committed to it, but we gave him the out, and we put the timestamp on it. And so that's an excellent point.
And it gives us both an out. It gives us, if he may think it is for him, but we don't. And so it gives us both an opportunity to be, and makes it a little less awkward. So, 100%. But you're right. Yeah, I think that's a great idea in the new members class to start here, filling people out. I think that's great. Also, that's a great place to ask people for a Google review.
Exactly.
To help your SEO while we're talking about it. But
yep.
My wife and I, we just started attending a new church back in the summer, and they did the exact same thing. Like, we had kind of a little personality thing, and then then we had to write out what experience do you have that may help the church? And you want to set off some planning center alarms. Write down that you're a 20-year youth ministry veteran with a seminary degree, and you own a church marketing agency. Like that sets off some red bells in planning center. Like, shoot,
you better believe it does.
You are.
We'd be all over that.
Yeah. So that was kind of funny, but no, that's good stuff, man. So what are 902 Church is growing. Yep. We've watched it grow. In fact, we've got a little case study about 902 Church on our website. Actually, there's a page, faithworksmarketing.com/902 Church, I think is what it is. But because one, you guys have been awesome to work with, but we know that we're not responsible. We can't take credit for growth. It's the Lord. You guys have an amazing staff there, but we like to just come alongside, be a partner, and pour some gas on the fire where we can. But what have you guys done? What do you feel like are some things that you guys have done that have helped reach your community? Because you're a growing church in a smaller town.
Yep.
You've got some marketing experience. Yep. And let me just throw this in. I feel like I ask really long questions, so I apologize. But if you go look at my Facebook ads for Faithworks, most of the hate that I get is from pastors saying that marketing's of the devil and all you need to do is preach the word. So I always like to ask, what would you say to that person? And then what are you guys doing to reach the community when it comes to marketing and when it comes to just being involved in the community? That's 4 questions.
Yeah. So I would say, first thing I think of when I hear about pastors saying that is, show me in scripture, but I always go back to Romans 10:14, where it talks about, everybody who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But then Paul kind of launches into this idea of how are they going to be saved if they don't know? And how are they going to know if nobody's sent? If nobody preaches to them, how are they going to know that they need to be saved? And so, how good is the good news, that on this, when it talks about the feet, it goes,
how beautiful are the feet? The good news.
Those who bring good news. That's how it goes. And I just think about that. And Jono, we live in a small town, and I met a girl, a little 8-year-old girl. We were doing a VBS event in the worst part of Kinston, the part that nobody wants to go into. We went in, and I met an 8-year-old girl. We were talking about Jesus, and she said, "Who is this Jesus that you keep talking about? Who is he?" Mm-hmm. This is in today's time, and so we assume that everybody has at least heard of Jesus. No,
you're in the Bible Belt. I mean, you're not just.
We're in the Bible Belt.
This isn't like
there's
Calcutta,
literally
India or something.
Yeah, there are literally. I can see 2 other churches outside of my window right now.
Right,
and here's a girl in the worst part of Kinston who had never even heard the name of Jesus. And so, we're marketed to every single day, but, the Super Bowl's fixing to come up, and, they're $7 million for an ad, and none of us complain about that. None of us complain. Well, I don't know why Doritos is doing an ad. That's just, Doritos are just good enough. They should just, everybody knows Doritos or whatever, no, they don't. We've got the best news, the greatest gift of all time, eternal life through Jesus Christ, and we're just going to sit on it? Yeah. No, we're going to come to and I think a lot of times too, it's the heart behind it. Now if you're out there to promote yourself, then sure, like that. But like, we're not promoting ourselves. I want you to get into a church, whether
Yeah.
it's 902 or the two that I can see right across out my window right now. Get
Yeah.
to a church. Now, I would love for you to come to two, but I just want you to get to church because your eternal destiny depends on it. And
Yeah.
so, I don't agree with that. I think, we've got the best gift that could ever be given, and we need to let people know. And we live in a world now that you got to get that news out there.
Yeah.
And then as far as for us, from the very beginning of our church, we were all about getting into the community and getting outside of our four walls. And so we have done, we went into the worst parts of Kinston and we did all kinds of fun events. And we even had one of the biggest gang leaders in that section of town that was said, "Hey, I like what you guys are doing. Just if you'll just give me a heads up when you come in, I'll make sure that nothing
That
happens.
no one gets shot.
No one gets shot." And we're like, "Hey,
We'll put the fentanyl up and
yep,
we'll clear.
yep, yep.
Like,
We'll respect you. We'll
that's
respect you.
awesome.
Hopefully reach you with the gospel more importantly, so that you get out. But we're going to respect your territory. And so when, hey, such and such, we're going to come in and do a little event for the kids.
Wow.
You're good. You're
Hey,
good."
902 church up, and no one wear red.
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
or
Exactly.
blue.
Nowhere wear red or blue. Just go
Wear
ahead and do it.
neutrals. Don't look anyone in the eyes.
Exactly. And we've gone in and done turkey bowls and played football
Oh, that's awesome.
and never had an issue. And our church has never had an issue. But I think it's getting outside of the walls. We keep trying to, and we were guilty of this, too, at times, is trying to draw people in when we need to be going out. And so we've gotten involved in schools. We go to the football games. Our teenage, our small groups leaders go to the games. We, serve at the pregnancy center and the homeless shelters, and we are involved in the community. Everybody knows. I really took to heart that idea that if 902 closed its doors today, would Kinston even miss it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. They would notice.
They would notice. Yes. Would anybody even notice if we closed our doors? And yes, they would, and God has given us those opportunities and opened up those doors and allowed us to be a blessing.
That's great. We, I don't know, probably 9 or 10 months ago, we were looking across all the churches we were working with. And it's hard to pinpoint, like, okay, why is, we're doing a lot of the same things for every church we work with. We customize it, but same recipes. And, we look at 902 church, it's working great for this church, working great for this church. And then this church is like, all right, it's not working. What's the deal? And the thing that we identified across the board, whether they were in like Pacific Northwest or they were in some weird city in Florida or they were in, Bible Belt or Virginia, whatever, the thing that was consistent was that they consistently got out in the community and were doing something. And different things. Some of them, one church had a dog park. Like, they opened up a dog park on their land, which I think is a brilliant idea. And every church should do a dog park in their land. They have like Golden Doodle Day, they have Dachshund Day, they have meetups, and they use their Google Grant to like shoot ads to it, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
But we figured out, like, and so now, like, when I'm talking to churches and they're interested in our services, one of our qualifying questions is, tell me what you do in the community. Because we pretty much decided, if you're not involved in the community, what we do is not going to work. You're not going to stay with us long. We want a long-term relationship with our churches that we partner with. And you've got to be involved in the community. So
100%. Yep. And you can see Jesus doing this. Yes, Jesus taught in the temple. Yes, Jesus taught. But at the same time, what was he doing? He's traveling around. He's going around. He's outside meeting with people, talking with people, preaching to people, teaching people, helping people, showing grace and compassion and truth to people as he's going out. And we've done the same thing. And I think you're 100% right. You have to get out and get into the community. And then the community goes, hey, this is a church I can trust. This is a church that genuinely cares about our community. This church, just served, the homeless shelter. This church served in the soup kitchen. This church, and it starts to register with people that you're not just a fly by night,
Yeah.
come to us. We genuinely care about Kinston
And about going.
and about going.
Imagine that. Well,
Imagine
I think I've read that somewhere.
Yeah,
Oh
go
yeah,
and
on the
make
Gospels.
disciples.
That's what I say like all the time. I'm like, look, as long as there have been missionaries and evangelists,
Yep.
they go where the people are, and people
100%.
are on this.
Yep.
You need to go on their
Preach.
screen.
Preach.
And so you know, my team is like, if I ever respond to the comments on our Facebook, my team, one of them, he just goes and deletes it. He always deletes my comments. But I'm like, these guys that are it's always the same. They're like, you just need to preach the word. And I'm like, man, my understanding of the New Testament church is that the preaching
Yep.
is for the gathering of the believers, and that the believers are supposed to go out and share their faith at work, at home, at the ball field, and bring, like, the work of the evangelist is to get them to church.
Absolutely.
Not the Sunday morning sermon. Preaching the word is for building and disciple making. And
Absolutely.
so I think those guys have got it wrong, but it's a spiritual arrogance thing, I think, really is what it's, where it's coming from. And they feel threatened because they're like 60 years behind in technology for the most part. And so I need to ignore them more. But
what's that old saying that goes like, we tend to criticize what we don't understand.
Yeah.
And so when you don't understand that this, you know, is where people are at, this is where you meet them now. And does it make sense? No. Is it perfect? No. But it's the reality. And so
the odd thing is that they are on social media criticizing us for using social media.
Oh no, come on now.
Like, you didn't really think this through.
Yeah,
like, you sure about that? You sure about that?
We tend to criticize what we don't understand.
Yeah. Well, man. So, let's finish with it. Any piece of advice you would give a pastor when it comes to reaching their community, or the way, you know, we talked a lot about raising up leaders. So maybe there's something there that you would give advice to a pastor, like, hey, if you're going to work on one thing for the next few months when it comes to leadership or reaching your community, this is the thing that I would work on.
Yeah. So for me, it's the culture, systems, teams. Culture, systems, teams. And those are the three big things that I'm looking at every single week. And I'm thinking through every single week. Culture, systems, teams. What kind of culture do we have at 902? We've created a culture. It's 12 years in the making of go, 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 go. Go and make disciples. Go. I preach about it. I model it. We live it out as a church. And we've created that culture. You got to look at your culture. Have you created a culture that is, and that comes from the pulpit, that comes from the visionary driving this? We're going to be a church that is in the Kinston community. We are going to be out. We're going to be serving. You have to create that culture. Then you got to look at your systems. We've talked a little bit about this. I am not a systems guy, but you got to look at those systems and say, okay, we're going to go out. Well, let's make sure we have a plan. What does that look like? And then you look at your teams, you know, which goes back to making sure the right people are in the right seat on the right bus. And so culture, systems, and teams is what I would look at. The 3 gears of growth developed by Sean Lovejoy at Courageous Pastors. And then I would say, so that's one thing. And then get a coach. Get a coach.
Yeah.
Get a coach. LeBron James has a shooting coach, a strength coach, a chef, a conditioning coach, a defense coach. Michael Jordan had all those same things. Yeah. They had a coach, and they're the greatest athletes of all times. If they need a coach, you need a coach.
Yeah.
Same reason we came to work alongside Faithworks. I don't know how to do what you guys do. I needed a coach. Yeah. I needed Faithworks. I needed Jono and his team to be my coach. Coach me, teach me how to do this. Show us what to do. And that's where you guys came in and said, we got you. We're going to show you exactly what to do. And so culture, systems, teams, and get a coach if you need it. If you can.
That's good advice. I haven't heard anybody say that in a minute, to get a coach, but you're exactly right. And Sean Lovejoy, if you're looking for a coach, dude is awesome. So I guess we both know him. And Sean, if you would like to sponsor this podcast, we're open to a sponsor.
I'll shoot him a text message.
Hit me up. But yeah, good stuff. Well, Pastor Ryan, thank you so much for being a part of this, man. I think it's going to bless people, and man, love what you're doing at 902 Church, and thankful to.
And if you're a pastor and you're thinking about Faithworks, go for it. Quit thinking through it. Just go for it. These guys have been phenomenal for us. I've been blown away at the people that are coming into our church. that are like, I saw you online, or bumping into people at the grocery store who are like, wait a minute, you're that guy that pops up on my TikTok feed and my social medias, and it works. It works. I promise you, it works. So just do it. Just sign up, get these guys going, and you'll be glad you did. You can thank me later.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, man.